Hey, today we'll talk about red flags in dating and also how to spot them. Before we look at these red flags, I want to just mention that any relationship can become toxic, even with two emotional, healthy, and beautiful, wonderful people. This can happen for many reasons, but mainly because one, the two attachment styles simply do not match. The typical dynamic is the anxious and avoidant dating each other. As the anxious try to control and affirm that they will not be left, the avoidant feels overwhelmed and controls and retrieve. So the anxious get more anxious and the toxic cycle continues and spirals out of control. This cycle can be broken with premarital counseling, which I recommend and also provide. Number two, different long-term goals. If the two people have different long-term goals that are deal breakers, like one person wants children and the other not, then this will create a lack of safety. As an end is already really on the cards, and this can cause anxiety and stress, even more so for people with an anxious attachment styles. Number three, inability to hear each other's attachment needs. We have different values and expectations and interpretation of the world through our lens and stories. So we often project idea of what something means onto our partner. To relate, we must let go of our interpretation and see our interpretations as our stories and not the truth. So we can use curiosity to explore and explore their attachment needs. This means finding out what makes them feel safe, heard, and valued. I work with hundreds of wonderful couples, but their dynamic have become toxic and resentful because they can't hear each other's attachment needs. So, let's look at red flags to avoid in dating. The first one is intensity. And this is a red flags to avoid in toxic people. First one is intensity. We get sucked in because they create this high emotional intensity, and it often feels fast and it feels magical, like we are the perfect fit. Sentences like, I've never loved anything like this before, or anyone like this before, and talk about marriage, kids, and moving in together often happen very, very quickly. Emotions makes us forget and miss warning signs, so you must slow down no matter how good it feels and understand you can't make good decisions in this state of mind. You're in a chemical obsession and your logic is offline. You also project your stories and fantasies onto this person, and we have no idea who this person is or how being in a long-term relationship with them will actually be like. Don't buy into the emotional intensity. Love is slow, consistent, and stable. What comes quickly goes quickly, and like a drug, when you go high fast, it will also come down fast. If you tend to be drawn to high intensity, it could be because you are anxious, attached, or you might have codependence, and a quick commitment and intensity makes you feel safe that this person will not abandon you. The irony is that these relationships are more unstable and less likely to actually last. If you're going to spend your life together, then what's a rush? We tend to put forward our best sides initially, so you don't know somebody after dating them for a few months. Emotions are good at telling us what we need right now, but they are not good at telling us what is good for us long term. If it's very intense and moves forward very fast, then it's a big red flag. Emotions are a great indicator, but you need to use integration, which I talk about in other videos. The next big red flag of toxic people is controlling behavior. It's a very typical red flag. Remember that, controlling behavior. They'll make you feel bad about your needs and think you want, things that you want, such as seeing friends or family, etc. In a healthy relationship, your partner will support what is good for you. For example, they might express their need for time with you, which is perfectly healthy. However, they will not try to make you feel bad or guilty about the choices that you make. In a healthy relationship, the conversation might sound something like this. I miss having more time with you. Before you started playing basketball, we had a day together each weekend, and now we never spend time together on the weekend, and I miss that because I value you and us a lot. I can understand that, and I hear you want us to have more quality time together because you really value time with me, and I appreciate that. I want time with you too, and I don't want to give up my basketball. What other days can we make time for each other? Wednesday we both have off, right? Why don't we make that our day together, and I will plan a dance lesson this coming Wednesday. I know you really like that. Let's do it. In this conversation, they both express their needs and boundaries clearly without blaming each other and make the other feel guilty. They focus on their own needs and share their affection for each other. They acknowledge each other's needs and are willing to meet each other and find something that works for both of them. In a toxic dynamic, this is how this conversation could have sounded like. You never have time for me anymore, and you only care about yourself. If you don't quit playing basketball and make time for me, I'll find myself a woman that will. Wow, What is all this about? I make time for us, but I also want a social life outside us. And time with my team makes me happy. Him. It's all about you and what makes you happy. Okay, I'll do what makes me happy then. Firstly, he uses the word never, which is an extreme word to use. He says she only cares about herself. This is blame and shame. He then uses threats to punish to get what he wants by saying he'll find another woman. She's, attacked and so gets a stress response where she can only really fight back or defend herself using justification or retrieve or try to please, which are all bad outcomes. The typical, these toxic people typically use guilt, shame, belittlement, and punishment to try and control you and get you to give up your needs and accommodate theirs. They don't express their needs in a vulnerable and kind way, but instead try to make you feel bad about who you are and what you want. They might try to isolate you from family and friends to gain more control. This is a huge red flag. So run now if you're experiencing this. The next red flag of toxic people are they don't respect boundaries. It's a big red flag when your partner does not respect your boundaries. None of us are perfect, and we will step over each other's toes and boundaries. However, a healthy dating partner will apologize and make changes going forward to respect your boundaries. A healthy partner will also encourage you to express boundaries. A toxic partner will most often not apologize and acknowledge your boundary, but instead attack or shame you for having that boundary instead. Even if they apologize, their actions don't change, so their apology is only to suck you back in. A toxic partner will continue to violate your boundaries. They will most often make you feel bad about having that boundary using guilt, shame, punishment, such as withdrawal of affection, acting upset, or belittling you. If words and action do not match, then again, big red flag. This is one of the early warning signs, and so a great way to test the partner is to set some boundaries early on with things such as how much time you spend together or other things that come up and make you feel stressed. Notice their response. Do they acknowledge your experience, apologize and change behavior? Then that's a great sign. Or do they not acknowledge your experience and make you feel wrong about your boundary? Or, do they make you feel bad about it and that you have to break your boundaries to please them? Or do they continue to violate your boundaries? If they do, then that's a huge red flag. Let's look at the next red flags. That is a lack of mutuality. Mutuality means both people care, respect, and try to accommodate each other's needs and boundaries. Accommodate does not mean having to give your partner everything they need. It means caring about your partner's boundaries and needs and actually making an effort to meet them. A big red flag is a complete lack of mutuality and where one partner is giver and the other one is a taker. This is a typical dynamic in a toxic relationship. It's common for the caretaker to accommodate the toxic partner's needs at the expense of their own needs and boundaries. This will lead to resentment, low self-worth, and your needs will not be met, and both emotional and physical harm can happen when your boundaries are violated. Does your partner show an interest in your needs? Does your partner try to accommodate your needs? When they can't do it, do they acknowledge and show care for your needs? Do they respect your boundaries and show regret when overstepping them? If you can answer yes to these questions, then you're onto a winner. But if your response is a no, then it's a big red flag. If your partner mainly seems to care about their own needs and doesn't care or accommodate your needs when you express them clearly, then it's a toxic dynamic with a lack of mutuality. Your partner is not a child, and a defining feature of adult relationships is mutuality. And entitlement is a classical sign of narcissism and a social psychopath. And entitled people think that they deserve special treatment. So a lack of mutuality will always be present in relationship with these toxic and abusive dating partners. Let's look at the next red flag, emotional instability. Huge red flag. One of the most defining features of toxic dating partners is emotional instability. People that can't regulate their emotions are dangerous and unstable, meaning they can harm you and the relationship will be unstable and lack safety. When people have extreme and unstable emotions, they lose empathy as the emotions overwhelm them. As a result, they are more likely to be erratic, make sudden decisions and go from intense love to feel numb or rage or be violent. Borderline personality is categorized by emotional extreme and instability. The narcissist is also emotional unstable and can go from showing great admiration and affection to rage in a second if they feel their fragile ego is threatened. If you see extreme swings from sudden love to coldness or rage, high drama and back and forth of hot, cold, intense closeness and then cold distance or conflict, then it's a huge red flag. So the next red flag, let's jump to the next red flag, I lost my thread here, is that most of their relationships are short, and they talk bad about their partner. This is because toxic dating partners tend to be unstable and toxic, so they have many short relationships and always blame others. Hence, all red flags are people who tell us about many short relationships and often with little to no break in between. And they most often talk about their ex-partner in bad terms. Ask them about their ex-relationships and watch out for this. For number one, length of the relationship. Fewer and longer relationships shows more emotional fewer and longer relationships show more stable emotions, And that's what you want, while many short relationships is a red flag. Number two, why and how they ended that relationship. Most dramatic and sudden endings are a big red flag. Number three, how long that they had in between relationships. Healthy people take time to heal before dating again, while more toxic dating partners tend to have a replacement ready and date someone else immediately because they can't be alone. For borderline personality disorders, and for the narcissists, they need that ego validation. All relationships are just transactionals, such as a social psychopath. If they never have breaks in between dating someone new, it's a warning sign. Number four, how they describe their ex-partner. If they are the victim and had so many horrible ex-partners and can't see their own part in the dynamic, is a big red flag. And also the next red flag to look at is they make you feel anxious. We talk a lot about red flags showing through actions, but you can also use your emotions to decide if somebody is toxic for you. Toxic people tend to make you feel bad about who you are and feel anxious about losing them. If you find yourself feeling worse about who you are, must hide your needs and boundary, or fear losing them more than usual, then it's a red flag. In the early stage of dating, the toxic dating partner are very charming. So you likely not feel anxious but fantastic. But once they feel you're hooked in, they will start to make you feel anxious and insecure. Let's look at the next red flag, lack of empathy. Look at how they treat service staff. The narcissist is often not pleasant to service staff because they feel entitled to special treatment and lack empathy for others. Later, when they've hooked you in, this is how you will be treated. So if you see your date treat service staff poorly in the early stages, run. It's a red flag. So that's enough for today. Don't forget to follow me and subscribe to this YouTube channel, or check out the Instagram or my podcast as well. You can find the link in the description below. Also check out the free guided webinar on how to heal from a toxic relationship or breakup and ensure that it never happens again. If you're in the middle of this confusing and painful place, check out the comprehensive course I created. I did on how to heal and flourish after dating a borderline narcissist or social psychopath. And again, links are in the description below. And never forget, you're worthy of love, safety, kindness, and mutuality. See you in the next video.